Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right.
Hello, Fortitude audience. Thank you so much for joining with us today. I am your host, Heather Kittleson, and I am here with my husband, Amos.
Hello.
Did I say husband? I think
you did.
I think I did. Hello, husband. And I'm also here with Brett and Kari Quall. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming to tell us your story today. I have been fortunate to sit with you many times, Brett, and I've heard your story is beautiful. And where you guys are today, I'm honored that you're here with us. So I know you from the community, Brett, and nonprofit world and just serving our community. And I am grateful because I remember kind of following you from we go to the same church. So I'd see you there and I'd see you there. And then I'd see you at different conferences. And I'm like, okay, I got to know this guy. Who is this guy? And then when I looked you up and creeped you a little bit on social media, I was like, he is married to Kari. Yeah. So it was so cool because Kari, I know your whole entire family from where we currently live. And it's just a small world that you two, because how long have you guys been married?
11 and a half years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm friends with your sister and there's a lot of different commonalities here. So, when I had asked you if you would share your story, I remember you looking at me just really, really kind of matter of factly and just like, I'll get back to you on that. And pray about it. I want to talk to my wife about it. And when you text me and you said that you were willing to come and share your story and that you both feel like it's time to start talking about it a little bit more, I was really, really excited. So you are our first conversation when it comes to infertility and the loss of miscarriages. So it's a really touchy. It just is. It's just touchy and it's hard. Loss is hard. And so I want to honor your story and allow you to just go ahead and start off by telling us a little bit about you guys. Where'd you meet? What do you got going on today?
Yeah, we met at USF. So we met on the dance floor, technically. And then I was a co-RA with someone who then was like, hey, what do you think of Brett? And she was like, hey, what do you think of Kari? And both of us were like, nope. Yep. But then we both joined a Bible study on campus. And I knew the leader and he was like, it's on my floor, easy, go. And so we ended up both going to the same Bible study and then just started hanging out. And then we started dating. So,
okay. What year were you in college?
Seniors. We were seniors in college.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Right? Quickly before we're out of college.
Yeah.
Well, and then did you move to Sioux Falls right away?
Right after when we got married, yeah.
Okay.
We were in an apartment right away.
Yeah. So then I moved in with my cousins for that in between year. Well, we were dating. We actually went to Branson, after 6 months of dating together for a 10-week discipleship program. So we worked at Silver Dollar City. Fun fact.
Super fun fact.
Yeah.
I grew up in Missouri and Silver Dollar City was the one place we vacationed almost every summer.
Yeah.
So best place ever.
Yeah.
Oh, fire in the hole.
It's one of my favorite places to take. I can't wait to take our kids there.
Yeah. I think that's where we should go, honey. Side note, because we're trying to figure out where to go in the next month. So, okay, go ahead.
It's worth it.
We love going back to visit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we actually almost broke up after that. Then instead of a couple months later, we got engaged and got married the next year. So,
10 weeks. That's a long time to be away. So a whole 10-week discipleship program.
Yep.
Okay.
And we were both the leaders of our cabin too. So he was in charge of the sky cabin. I was in the girl cabin, but.
Well, this is the first year that we actually they had two people that were in a couple that were going to be leaders. And so they scared me a lot to where they're like, you can't be in your relationship while you're down here. You have to just.
Oh.
You can't be exclusive.
Yeah.
And right. That doesn't mean you can't talk to me.
I took it to that.
Oh, you did?
It was bad.
Yeah.
Yep. It was where people were like, talking to Kari and like, oh man, I really like Brett. And she's like,
he's my boyfriend. And they're like, oh, I didn't know he was dating anyone. Like,
it was bad.
Oh, well, I am very grateful that you survived that silence, Kari, because here you are 11.5 years later.
We just laugh about it now. It's fine.
We do.
We were young. It's fine.
And I admit it, I was not a good boyfriend at it. So
well, that would have been hard to kind of decipher what their expectations of you were.
Yeah.
Well, the expectations of the camp too were different. Like I thought the boys were going to be in a whole different spot than the girls because they really want to focus on your relationship with God and digging deeper with God.
Yeah.
But no, we're all in the same area and not very far away from each other at all.
That would have made it super hard. Yeah. I can see. Okay. So you get back from that, you get engaged, you get married.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so how many years? 2011?
2011.
Yeah, 2011.
Okay.
Yep.
2011. Yep. Okay. And then did you decide that you guys wanted to be parents right away? How to talk me through all of that?
No, we wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
We're like, let's go road tripping, let's travel, and we didn't do necessarily a ton of traveling, but and we got to the point then I was doing grad school. Mm-hmm. And so I started that in 2014 and then graduated in spring of 16. Okay. And so I remember him coming to me, I believe, and saying that you were ready, like you wanted to start growing our family. And I'm like, no, I'm in grad school. I'm not going to be pregnant, moody, and trying to do homework, or have a kid and like doing that and homework. I'm like, no. And so when we got to the end of fall of 15, so in December, I said, okay, fine, because I'm working on my internship. That's all I have left. So if it happens, it happens. So December of 15 is when we're like, okay, let's go. Let's try. Knowing it would probably take us a while. Mm-hmm. I knew that I have PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome. So like I knew that I had progesterone issues and different things. I had done some hormone testing before we even got married, trying to figure that all out beforehand to make sure we weren't going to have babies right away.
Can I pause for a second there?
Yes.
For the audience? PCOS. What can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So I mean, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah.
And so from my understanding, I mean, I'm not an expert here, you guys, so you might need to Google this to be exact. But I mean, basically part of my issue is I don't ovulate, or I actually had an ovulation we found out later where like it seems like I'm ovulating, but an egg doesn't get released.
Okay.
Like everything else is happening but that. So your levels don't, like, you have a certain peak, so your estrogen goes up and then your progesterone comes and different things like that. I wasn't producing enough progesterone at all. So like I'd have estrogen cycles essentially, is what they would say, without the progesterone, which is what really helps you, from my understanding, to get pregnant and have the baby stay and all of that.
So do they walk you through all of that when they do this diagnosis and they say, you might not be able to have kids? Do they say those?
They don't say a whole lot of nothing.
Okay.
They kind of like, here it is. This is what it is. And you go and you figure that out yourself a lot of times. And at that point, we weren't trying to have kids. So they weren't like, let's explain how this is going to work or what we need to do if you're ready to have kids.
Medication?
So at this point, no. Once we started to try to have kids then, and I'll be honest, at first I really didn't want to get pregnant because I was in a wedding that June of 16, and I'm like, I don't want to be the pregnant bridesmaid.
Yeah, nobody does.
So so I had such mixed feelings every month because I'm like, I want to get pregnant, but I don't want to get. It was weird. It was like the weirdest thing, and I'm a control freak if I'm being honest.
A big planner.
Yes, a big planner. So I'm like, my timing. And so I was like so relieved that I got through the wedding that I'm like, all right, let's go. Here we go. Yeah. Let's go get pregnant now. And it was in September. And I should say too, with the PCOS, I was so irregular. I was never a monthly gal. I'd go 1 month to 9 months. I never knew when my cycle would come.
Yeah.
So I never knew when I was ovulating. And you can't do ovulation tests either because the levels are always like, yep, you're ovulating for 28 days possibly. Like they don't work.
Okay.
So, and so I remember in September, my cousin was getting married in Missouri, in St. Louis area. And I knew we don't see those cousins as often. I'm like, it's going to be a big party. Let's be honest. And so he's like, you should take a test. And I hesitated. And then we were leaving Thursday. So Wednesday morning, I took a test. And it was positive. And I'm like, okay, I'm not drinking this weekend. Good to know.
Yeah.
And then
Good call, Brett.
Yep.
I was just reading through. I had journaled about this later on, and I was reading through, and I'm like, oh, I went home at lunch and took another one, and just to be safe. And then I remember creating him this little box with a pacifier in it and a note saying like, nothing better than you being a husband, but being a dad to my kids. So I was like waiting for him when he got home from work that day to tell him like we were pregnant.
Aww.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember the box.
What was going through your head?
At first, I didn't know what was going on because she was so excited. Actually, the first thing was she was like, we should go out to eat tonight. And I was like,
Oh, yes. Yep.
that's weird. Like, do we
'Cause
have
you don't go out to
coupons
eat?
for something? Like, where do we have something
We
to
don't
be
go
able to
out to
save
eat.
money?
Like, we don't do that.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, something's up. I don't know what it is. Like, I didn't know she had taken a test or anything like that.
Okay.
I was trying to throw
But you
him off.
mentioned it. You
Yes.
said
Yeah.
maybe you should.
Yeah, I
but you
said
didn't know
maybe
she
take a test just in case if you are.
And I think that's why I was waiting to try to throw him off a little bit. Like, in case I was. I don't know. That way I had time to
Right.
like wrap my head around what am I going to do if I am?
did. Yeah.
So then I get home and she's like standing in the hallway, just like waiting for me. I'm like, hi, like I'm happy that you're happy I'm home, but like didn't know what was going on. Like I had no clue. And then all of a sudden she like takes a box from out behind her back. I'm like, what is this?
And it looks like a big like ring box that
Yeah.
like opens from the middle, like two wings.
I don't know what.
yeah.
Yeah, like
We still have the box.
unsnapped. Yeah, we do. It like unsnapped and everything. And then I read it and there was a pacifier in the middle and I was like, no way.
Oh.
And then I just started crying. And then I was very excited. And then we went out to eat that night. We went to
I think Pepper Jacks.
Yeah, it was Pepper Jacks. And then she threw up because she was so acidic from it.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And then the next day we left for Missouri and I, with my family, we're riding with them.
This
and
whole time.
it hit me that day.
Yep.
Like my morning sickness and everything hit me. So I'm like, luckily, I think I went and got Preggy drops. I had a friend that had given me some. So I had some just waiting for me.
What the heck is Preggy drops?
They're like these little
help with the
drops. They
nausea.
kind of look like cough drops, but they're supposed
Okay.
to help with nausea. Like
Okay.
they're kind of lemony. Some of them are. And so anyways,
4 kids and I had no idea.
yeah, right? It's a new thing, right? Okay. And so I remember taking them the whole way down and feeling like crap for the 9-hour drive. And then I had to fake it. I remember my grandma needing some wine. So I'm like, perfect, I'll grab it. So it looked like I was holding wine and just,
Trying
brought it to her.
Yep.
But I felt awful. And we left the dance early. And we don't leave dances early.
No, we don't.
like to dance.
Okay.
So,
Like we
So
didn't
nobody
leave our
was
own
catching on?
dance until like 11:30,
yeah.
like midnight.
Yeah.
About. And then they still went on for another hour and a half. We heard. So
for a while later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you guys go dancing now?
no,
we used to. In
I mean, we live
college.
for like wedding dances,
Yes.
but we don't.
I mean, we
usually
have
go
home
out
parties with our
downtown.
kids. Does that count?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
Yes, it
That's what
does.
we do.
I love to dance.
So
And
yes, we do dance at home then.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Blaring music and just getting your jiggy on. That's
Oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you were trying to hide it this entire time. So did anyone catch on while you were down there?
Nope.
No one.
Okay.
No one caught on.
So you get back
Yep.
and you get to the 12-week mark, right? Is it time then to tell?
Well,
Not yet.
So we were only 5.5 weeks pregnant when I took my test and then went down.
Okay.
So at this point, no. But your mom's birthday was the next week, and we went out to Johnny Carino's, I believe it was, and she was like, "Why is she not eating her food? Like she looks miserable, And I was.
Yeah.
And so I think we told them. No, we didn't. We told both of our parents so together. So I think shortly after we told them. Like we made this DVD looking cover picture, like a movie picture, and we put it in the front of DVDs and gave it to them. And then it was about a week and a half later, we actually had an 8-week appointment. And in our 8-week appointment, she's doing a little Doppler just in the room. And she's like, And we're like, what is going on? And we had a midwife. And so she was looking. And she was like, I can't tell if this is reflecting off or if there's 2 heartbeats. And we looked at each other. We went, what?
Yeah.
And she's like, I think we need to send you up to ultrasound. And we were just like, we were so dumbfounded.
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't know what to think, and we were excited, and we were like, what the heck? And like, it didn't completely surprise me. I knew that twins ran in our family.
I was just going to ask, whose family?
Both of our families.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I knew like that could always be a possibility, but I was just like, okay, well, let's go find out. Like, okay.
What was going through your head, Brett?
So I was actually I was watching the Doppler and I saw like two things and I was like, what is that? Like, she's like, let me keep looking. And she like kept like looking and like kept going over and I'm like, that looks like two black spots that are blinking. Like
they're blinking.
Yeah. And so then we went up and then ultrasound and sure enough.
But we had to wait forever because you didn't have an appointment. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, that's
squeeze you
right.
in. I remember, so we were just chatting the whole time going, what if, oh my gosh, can you believe this? Like,
Yeah.
all these things running through your head.
And
What a
I don't
change.
think I had any like scared. Like I wasn't ever scared about it. I was actually excited about it. Like I never had a moment where I'm like, oh my word, we're having twins. Like
He was like, yeah,
this
let's
is
go.
not good. It's
Twins.
like, okay, like this is what's
Cool.
supposed to happen. Sweet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. So
Let's do this.
we went in and easy as day. Two,
Right there.
There's two babes. Very easy to tell. 2 heartbeats. Healthy. Great. Everything was good.
yeah.
So
So you went, that was at your 8 weeks. So you went a few more weeks.
Yeah.
And then did you wait to tell or did you guys tell right
so
away?
we actually had told then, so our parents already knew before that appointment. And then he's an only child. So we told my siblings then as well in person. And then that was a Tuesday. And we called everyone. We FaceTimed everyone. And his parents were like, yeah, we'll get you guys the cribs. We're like, how would you like to get us 2 cribs? You know? And then we just went through and FaceTimed everyone, all of my siblings, and told them all.
Yeah, because you're so excited.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they all knew right away that we were having twins.
Yep.
And then we already had a vacation planned. So that Saturday afterwards, we went and did a road trip in the New England area. Like we flew into Toronto, into the Niagara Falls, rented a car, and we drove through New York and Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And yeah, it was interesting because I threw up at a bed and breakfast because I was sick. So yeah, it was.
But we told everybody that we came in contact with who were having twins.
Because
Oh, for
Because
sure.
we couldn't
don't
tell
know
anybody
us.
else. We're
Right.
like, we're never going to see you again. Hey, we're having twins. Hey, we're having twins. Like everybody we came in contact with, we were saying it to them. They're like, oh, that's so amazing. And like
Oh,
got us even more excited about it.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest parts about that trip, though, I chose not to go through like the metal detectors of the airport. Instead, I'm like, just go ahead and do the pat me down thing. And I remember telling the TSA person there that I was pregnant with twins. And of course, some people don't think and just made a remark of like, oh, I can tell or something like that. And I'm like, I'm 9 weeks. I'm sorry. This is just pudge. This is not like, I'm not that far.
Shame
I get
on
it's
her.
twins.
Yeah.
But like, I remember her making that comment. And I'm like, why would just don't say anything? Be like, oh, good for you. Why would you make a comment on my body?
yeah. Some
Like-
people don't. They just, like we
don't
were
know.
saying earlier,
Yes.
just don't say anything.
Yes.
Just,
Just
just don't say anything.
And so it's those moments where it's always interesting. I think you're always going to come into that. I feel like when you're pregnant in general too.
Yeah.
And so it made me giggle a little bit. I just had to giggle at it because there's nothing else I could do. And, but yeah, everyone else at least it was fun to tell because they're all excited or like,
Yeah.
cool, great, awesome. And they didn't know us. So we could share it.
So you get back
Mm-hmm.
and you're how far along?
We were probably 9.5, 10 weeks when we got back.
Yep.
And it
Okay.
was-
So you guys, because a lot of times they say the typical stage that you are allowed.
Yep.
I'm doing quote thing here to tell people at 12 weeks because then you're in the clear after the first
Yes.
trimester.
Yep.
So everyone knows, and then you find out.
Yep.
Yep, we had, I'll never forget that weekend. I went with my sister actually to a hometown volleyball game. I think it was playoffs. And my grandma, she's a town talker. She already told everyone that we're having twins too. So everyone knew. And so everyone was congratulating me. But I also remember on the way home or during the game, I was spotting and it freaked me out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And she's like, it's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, it's probably fine. It's not a ton, just a little. And that was, I think, like a Friday night. And then that Monday, we actually met with daycare. We found our daycare for the twins, and it was Halloween. And then the next day was our appointment. And I remember we snapped people and we're like, oh, here comes our appointment. Like, we're so excited, you know? And then, yes, we went in, and right away we knew something was wrong. I'm like, you could tell they were deteriorating a little bit. Like, it was really just hard to see. You could tell they hadn't grown like at all since our last appointment. And that's exactly what they confirmed. We had our 8-week appointment, and they were about the size of 8-week 4 days. So really shortly after our last appointment is when we lost them. But my body just wasn't rejecting them. And so my levels were they weren't going up, but they weren't going down either. And so we weren't even really given any options. They just said, we're going to do a D&C. And we're going to schedule that. And that was for 2 days later.
What were those 2 days like?
Not fun.
Yeah.
Like, we just continually cried. I feel like.
Yeah. We had, I don't even know where this idea came from either, but my sister's a photographer. And so I remember calling her and say, hey, can we get pictures? And so we went into her studio and we took pictures that Wednesday in between the days. So I was still pregnant technically. And we took photos. And so I'm so glad I have those photos or whatever. And like, we have a little saying that goes with it, and it's on a wall in our house now.
Okay.
As well, and says when they were expected to be due.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Did you guys name them?
Yeah, we did.
What are their names?
So it's Faith and Hope are the names of we were told they're girls.
Yeah.
So because they did genetic testing on them.
Yep. From our D&C, they take samples.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we asked them to. We said we wanted to know if possible. And they were actually identical twins.
Yep.
Which is not hereditary. Like, that's just by chance. And so, we knew they were girls.
Faith and Hope.
Yep. Faith and Hope.
And then we actually gave them middle names too. It was Faith Henrietta, which is my grandma's middle name, and then Hope Esther, which is my other grandma's middle name.
Okay.
So
That's right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we didn't name them right away though. It was Christmas time. We had spoken with someone, one of our friends' moms, who had a sibling that was miscarried, and their mom had named their sibling. And she was telling us her story about how special that was for her, and knowing she can't wait to meet her sister someday, and knowing her name. And so, like, it took us a while to really just process all of it. And so I remember around Christmas time, we were like, and I think that it was actually at our friend's engagement party.
Yeah, it was.
Right? And so where she was telling us this. And so we're like, yeah, I think that'll be good for us. Like, let's do it. And so that's.
Yeah. It was hard because it was at the engagement party, so everyone's like really excited, but everyone knew what happened to us. And so everyone would like come up and they're like, go like, we're so sorry. Like, and then just give us hugs. We're like, now we're going to cry again. So like,
we're not supposed to cry.
Yeah, we're supposed to be excited
party.
about this. And it was hard to be excited. But then she pulled us aside and she was just like, hey, I just want to tell you guys our story. And it was just really profound about how like her mom made sure that all the rest of her kids knew that they had a sibling that did not make it to heaven or to the earth. But like, it was really cool how the mom kept talking about her and like bringing her up in conversation, and like they even celebrated her birthday. And so that was something that really, really got us like, wow, maybe we should do that. Yeah. Like with our kids now, like we talk about them, but it's just one of those things where it's like, they should know that they have siblings that woke up to Jesus instead of woke up to us. So
yeah. There's a couple of unique things I want to touch on here. And one is, after that happens, the people around you are usually really hesitant to say anything. So what were a couple of the things that were said to you that you just were so grateful for?
I wouldn't even say what was said, what was done.
Okay.
I remember afterwards, like I've never received so many cards and flowers and then food. That was the surprising one that I really appreciated. People would be like, can I bring you a meal? And I'm like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, what can I do for you? And food was the thing that I'm like, people suggested. And I'm like, I never thought of that, but thank you.
Bring
yes.
it. Yeah.
Like
the last thing you want to do when you're mourning,
yeah,
truly, is cook.
Yeah.
You don't even want to eat,
right,
let alone think about what to cook. So
well,
that really is a kind
gesture.
gesture.
She was in pain.
Yeah. I, in a sense, had a
surgery.
mini birth, you know, because they do, they dilate you just like you do before having a baby.
Yeah. You go through the whole process.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So like, I mean, I'm wearing the like afterbirth, like pads and such. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you kind of go through that. You're taking all the painkillers and stuff. So, yeah.
You were both raised in Christian homes, if I'm
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have your faith
Yep.
and you have each other. But
Yes.
during this time of something neither one of you have ever walked through, you're now walking through it together. How did you support one another? What was hard? What was good? Because some marriages don't last that.
Yeah. That was a hard thing on my part, like how to actually help her. Because one, it was our first time being pregnant. So it was one of those things where it's like, I don't know what I can do on my side of helping with it. I would see her just sad and I was like, I wish I could make her happy. And the one thing I'll say though is like, one of the big things that happened to us was, someone told us they could tell like God was prevalent in our lives because of the actual peace that we had with it though, where we were just like, this is awful. This happened to us, but we know that both these daughters woke up to heaven and not to this earth and didn't have to worry about living through this earth. And so that really resonated with both of us to help us through it of like, you're right. Yeah, they woke up to Jesus just like we want to wake up to Jesus someday. And they were able to do it without having to live in this world and not to worry about the problems of this world.
Right.
And so that was really cool when someone told us that I'd actually lost a baby as well. And it really helped us. But we also did go through a devotional together that really helped. We were frustrated at first.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where it's like, oh, this, like one of them was like, I cried for months and I just couldn't do anything. And I was just mourning and continuing to mourn. And Kari and I remember looking at each other like, we're not crying that much. Like, why aren't we? Like,
Is something wrong with us?
yeah, why aren't we mourning like this person? And so that was frustrating to us is like, we just had to figure out, okay, everybody mourns differently.
Yep.
And how are we going to mourn together?
I think that's the hardest part. Like you go through this and there's no set way of mourning. And so we've had friends go through it too. And we're like, your feelings are valid. And if you want to mourn that way, you mourn that way. We all mourn differently. It was a devotional grieving the child you never knew. And I made us go through it together. And at the end, there was questions each day. And I'm like, we're going through this together. Because then you can understand where I'm coming from. Because I knew he didn't quite understand what I was feeling. And at the same time, like, but I don't understand what you're feeling on the other end. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, we're going to do this together. And we're just going to answer these questions. And the first day or two, I hated the devotional. We're just like, there's pieces of it. I don't even remember exactly, but I just didn't like it. And as we went through, I'm like, no, this is good. And I don't know if I was just angry too, like that we lost him was part of it. Like, I'm just mad that we lost him. Like, this stinks. We had these plans. This is how it's going to go. Now our timeline's all screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, when are we going to get pregnant again? How's this going to work? And so, but as we went through it and we have bought that book for so many other people, we have borrowed that book out to people now.
Good.
And it's like one of my favorite things to give to someone that's going through this.
Brett, what's your advice to husbands in those moments?
I mean, one thing that I think helps is like literally just like holding them. I mean, like for Kari, like give her the opportunity just to like hold her and like have her just cry, was one thing that I think that helped, for her. But I think just really understanding that you're never going to really understand what they're going through. But you also have an opportunity to mourn. I think that's something as husbands is like, you have to be this rock, you have to be solid, through the situation, but really showing the emotions that you have and showing like how you're actually feeling with your wife is so much better.
Yeah.
I can see what you mean, where it's almost a double pressure, where you feel like you want to be the rock and you want to help your bride, the love of your life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you've got to mourn too.
Yep.
And so you've kind of got this internal pull and you don't know what to do. And maybe at times that causes impatience and makes things worse. And the cycle kind of, it spins. So that's great advice. I appreciate that. Any other advice that you want to give?
I mean, I think something too is like taking the pressure off of the house, like taking over some things. I mean, I think I'm even still doing that today, trying to take pressures off the house of her, like, so she could have time to mourn, where she didn't have to worry about doing the dishes or doing laundry or keeping the house cleaned up. It was something that I feel like that was when I really started to see that side of where I needed to step up, was during that time of like us mourning the like loss of our daughters. So yeah.
That advice is great advice for all men, regardless. I really feel like the holding your wife, and to truly see what's going on around the household, because we take on a lot as women, trying to keep the house together and the kids and all the things. And so when husbands take notice and they step in and they just holding us is a big one. We just love affection. I'm putty when Amos just holds. I'm like, I'm not even sad, but dang, just hold me. It feels so good. So I don't remember what year we're at. What year were we at with?
16.
So 16,
So
yep.
end of like November 16 is when we lost them.
Okay. So how long did it take you guys to feel, I don't want to say whole again. I don't think you ever really can feel whole again, but to have that desire to say, okay, let's do this again.
I mean, it was tricky because my levels had to take forever to come down in order for it to get a cycle again. I mean, it was probably 3 months. And so then after that, we went in, we started doing testing. We figured some of like the anovulation thing we figured out for me. We figured I had an acute uterus. And so we just figured things out, and we just thought, oh my gosh, we could do fertility, but this could cost an arm and a leg, because that's all I ever knew. I thought that's all, it would cost a fortune. And I remember in June of the next year of 17, they had told us like, well, when you're ready, let us know. And in September is when we dove in, and our medication was $2.
Wow.
And then with $100 booster shot. So it was not like, and this was low level fertility treatment.
Yeah.
And then that's when we went for it. The first round didn't work. The second round worked, but didn't get pregnant. Like, it allowed me to ovulate. And then the third round is when we got pregnant again.
Okay. And this time around, you were pregnant with triplets.
Yes. We went in early for a 6.5 week appointment.
Okay. Which that they usually don't even allow you to do that,
Nope.
do they?
No,
So
that's why I say it.
But
Yep.
I mean, you look at you're technically high risk. So they want to take every precaution they can. So you go in and you find out you're having triplets. And now there's a whole nother level of emotion going on, right?
Yep.
So did you actually celebrate, or what was the...
Well, when I told them, I first took a test at home, of course. And when I told them, I actually wrote a note from the girls to him, telling him that I was
Oh,
pregnant.
yeah, that's right.
Oh,
So I wrote a note from the girls. And then, once we went in, it was just hard because right away they told us that baby C's heart rate was low. Is at 65 or something like that, 63. And so we're like, they're like, it won't affect the other two, and the other two were identical again. And they thought that was really interesting that we had identical back to back. And then with baby C, so 2 eggs in that situation.
okay.
One
Yep.
being split. And so it was hard, right? I mean, right away from the beginning, it was like, okay, hold your breath.
Yeah.
And they're like, we set an appointment for, I think it was about 2 weeks later, but they said, if you need to come in sooner, let us know. And that was on a Wednesday. We had that ultrasound. And that weekend, I'm like, we need to go in. And so Monday I called, Tuesday when we went in, and sure enough, we lost baby C. So they said, nothing we need to do. Baby A and B will be fine. Okay. And so we moved out that other appointment just a little bit further. So it was about a week and a half later. And that would have been December 15th, that Friday. Is when we went in again. So we were about 9 weeks at that time, and we found out baby A and B had no heartbeat. Same day that his cousin had twins. And we went and visited the twins afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah,
But it was definitely a God thing.
it was.
Especially for Kari, because she was she told me after we got back, 'cause it was hard for me. I was like, I don't really want to go. Like, I don't want to see twins right now. Like, again, we lost triplets. And so it's like, I don't want to see twins. But then like when we got there, some things happened with her where she had to be taken away. And then we were just there, just me and her holding twins. And like, that was what Kari needed, was just to hold twins and like hold them in and be like, these could be ours.
Yeah, it was, because so they had been dismissed from the hospital, but his cousin was having some blood clotting issues and had to come back. Well, the twins were no longer patients either. So I just came and I had days off because I just had another D&C. And so I just held them. And then she ended up having to go have a D&C herself for blood clotting. And so I'm like, you just go. Like, you guys just go. And so we just waited till their parents came up and we just held the babies.
Oh, you too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that hit me hard thinking about you sitting there holding these twins and you just lost 5.
Yeah.
It's really counterintuitive.
Yeah.
That you would want to do that.
Right.
What, can you explain that a little more?
I don't even know. I think it was just like maybe it was closure in some ways. I'm not sure. Like, or if it was, if I can't hold my own twins, at least I can help hold someone else's twins, you know? So they had a special place in my heart for quite some time, and we see them from time and again, but I wouldn't say we're like super close and see them all the time, or they've like replaced them by any means. I think it was a moment in time, truly, of like, we're going to snuggle these babies and we're going to help somebody else with their babies. And this was babies number 4 and 5 for them. So they already had 3 kids. Yeah. But you know, like, it was just like this moment of like, okay, things are going to be okay. Like, this is, even if I just have one in the future, like, this is what's to come. Like, it
gave you hope. Like you had a tangible physical baby that you were able to look at and go, one day it is going to happen. This is going to happen. So it almost, in a sense, it was like God placed him in your arms to say, I got you guys.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's really special. I think I missed that part of the story. So that's really cool.
I might not have told that part of it, but
there's so many little interesting pieces too. And I mean, my whole family knew, even like my little nieces and nephews. I remember one of them said to someone how we had lost 5 babies, you know, and they're like, 5 babies? No. And then my sister was like, no, he's right. Like, they've lost 5 babies that are in heaven, because they would all say, yep, they've got 5 babies in heaven. Like, they would tell people that. And I'm like, yep, you're right. We do.
I mean, we still tell people that.
Yeah, we do.
We say we have 2 on earth and 5 in heaven.
Yeah. Ooh.
Waiting for us when we get up there.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's so ironic in some ways, where I said I've always wanted a big family. I come from a family of tons of cousins. I have 3 older siblings. So I like the idea of a big family. At the same time, I'm in some ways, ironically again, grateful maybe I don't have to care for 7 kids, like physically.
It's a lot.
Financially and mentally. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, but this is just like eternal perspective. Like, oh my gosh, but I get to have this big family eternally.
In heaven. Yeah, you sure do. Wow, you guys. So now, because our time is, I could talk for a lot longer, but our time is coming to a close. So talk us through you've held 2 babies. You have 2 babies. So what was that like? What was the rejoicing that happened?
So to be completely honest, so we were filling out Anders. That's what our youngest is. Oldest. Youngest. We were filling out the baby book, and it's like, how did you feel when you found out you're pregnant? And we were like, okay, here we go again. Like,
I think I showed him my pregnancy test this time. There was nothing special in telling him. I'm like, here you go. Hey, guess what?
You're right.
Pregnant. Like,
because it's one of those things where you're just like, well, okay, how long are we going to keep these 2? Or this one, or whatever it is in there. Like, so there's no excitement. And then also with it, like, even to this day, I mean, when we had our second one, when you have the ultrasounds, it is so hard, because you just sit there and you're like, please have a heartbeat, please. Like, there's not excitement looking at an ultrasound anymore. It's just like, just please be okay. Like, that's what you're all like. I still to this day, like, I will look down and like just wait for her to be like, oh, there's a good heartbeat. I'm like, okay. it's just
Your
a very big
your heart
moment.
skips a beat.
Mm-hmm.
I think, with Anders too, we had a lot of ultrasounds too. And we did have a 14-week where I spotted. And so we had a little scare when we went to the ER. I remember going, I think I'm having a miscarriage,
Just trauma.
yeah.
There's just underlying trauma
and
that's hard.
it was fine, but I was too active. The few days before we were in Florida. And so I'm playing spike ball on the beach. Oops. And I'm very competitive. So not good for me. And it ended up being great and fine. And with crew, I remember, being a little bit more, yes, I was more cautious and nervous, but I wasn't as scared. Like some of that distance had helped kind of help ease my anxiety about it all and going, it's going to be okay. It was a little bit easier, still hard, but easier.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I'm so glad you guys have sweet little Anders and Crew. Those are fun names.
Yeah.
I love those names. And what are their ages again?
4 and 16 months.
Just little yet.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, running around like crazy.
Tackling each other. Boys.
That's so fun.
And, oh yeah.
What advice would you give from a mother's perspective? Just how to love on yourself in those moments.
What brings you joy? Self-care. I mean, I think it really depends on the person. For me, I needed to distract myself to a point. So I kind of put myself into work for the first few months after each of those times, allowing me my moments, of course, to sit. And I'm like, gosh, I think I needed a good cry. So I'm like, let's go watch a sappy movie. And so I did. I'd put on a sappy movie and I would let myself cry because it's like it was building up, but I just couldn't get it out. I'm like, I just need this to get out. Mm-hmm. And I love my bath, so you better believe I took a ton of those.
Baths, okay.
As many as I could. And I actually started getting a massage too every month. Like just different things that I started doing just to do self-care because it's hard. And let people love on you. I think that's really hard too. Like let people bring you the food, let people give you the hugs or send you the texts of encouragement. Sometimes I'm a doer and I can do everything myself. But just allowing yourself to let people do things for you.
Yeah.
It's hard to let go.
And
but
people,
it's good.
People love to do things for others. Just as much as you and I both want to for others, we have to allow them to do it for us too. Yeah. I'm just like you, Kari. Like, I got this. I'm good. But the reality is we do need people.
Yes.
So.
And just to set expectation for how long that could take, what are we talking? You mentioned a couple months in before you really started to let yourself process it. So timelines, what did you go through?
I mean, it can take years in some ways though too, because there's parts of us, we actually do. We let go balloons every year on the month that the twins are due, and we let a lantern go every year the month the triplets were due. And so we still, in some ways, it's a mourning process still. It's different. It's not in the heaviness of it, in the thick of it. I'd say it definitely took a few months, in some ways a year. Once it's that next step sometimes, or if is that next step going to come? We were never guaranteed a baby
right
after all of that. We didn't know. Mm-hmm. Sure, we hoped for it, but was that going to come to fruition? I think it's so different for everyone. So that's hard to answer. That's a great question, but hard to answer.
No, you answered it really well though, Kari. I picked up the two things. You celebrate them. Mm-hmm. You celebrate their lives. They may not have lived here on earth, but they did in your belly. They lived. Yeah. They lived.
Short time.
And to celebrate their lives, because it really is such a big, the lanterns and the balloons, and to make it a point to talk to them, talk to your boys about their siblings. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will shut off. Yeah. A lot of people will be angry and they will not want to talk about it. The anger that comes from loss, some people get stuck in that and they have hardened hearts. They don't want their spouse to mention their name. They don't want to talk about it. And that to me is the wrong approach. Granted, there's, like you said, everyone mourns differently, but to get through it really to healthy and to get to a place of where your marriage is open and your communication is open. And like, Brett, you could have said, I don't want to do a dang devotional. Like, I don't want to do it. No. Yeah. and left Kari to do it on her own. And there's that rift that's now caused versus being like, I don't know what's going to become of this, but sure, Kari, I'll do this, even in the time that it was hard.
Yeah.
So to have open communication, to love on one another, to love on others who are going through it, and just to let the process be.
Yep.
Let it be.
Yeah. A really cool God moment with like the balloons really like was the first time we did it. Cause how we got the idea is I had lost a classmate at sophomore year of college. And so his mom always sets off balloons for him and like writes a card, like a happy birthday card. And so I was like, we should do that for the girls. And so we got the balloons and we wrote on the card and
it was right around Mother's Day too.
Yep.
Because that's when their due date was.
Yep. And like wrote like happy birthday and everything like that. And then whoever gets this, please contact us and let us know, because that's what they do on that one as well.
So we put our phone number on there.
So we put our phone number on there for someone to call, and it got all the way out to Wisconsin. And it was a really cool God moment because the lady that got it, all of a sudden we get this random call on the phone and we're like, hello, like, who is this? And she's like, is this Brett or Kari Quall and with Faith and Hope? We're like, yes. She's like, I'm from wherever in Wisconsin. And
it started with an M, Midland or something
yeah.
like that.
And my husband, like, he works on the
Electric
power lines. Yeah. And so like they get stuck all the time. And so he had taken that one down and then saw that there was a card on it. And she actually said, she's like, this is a crazy God moment because my daughter just went through a miscarriage. And this is so cool to see like you guys do this. Yeah. And so both of us like sit there and just start crying. And we're like, this is so cool. Like, and so we do that. We don't do the call
card
us
anymore.
But
yeah.
Oh, I would
still do. Yeah. We could.
We did the next year, and we're pretty sure it landed in a lake. So
yeah, that's right.
That's really cool.
So then we didn't do it anymore. But yeah, it was really crazy. She thought it was a Mother's Day card since it was right around Mother's Day, and someone had lost their balloon, and so she wasn't sure to open the card right away either. It took her a bit to open it.
So from the time that the balloons go to the time that she called, how much was in between?
It was like days.
I don't think it was super
wasn't long at all.
Well, it traveled from here to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Within a week,
was
maybe.
Crazy how fast. I was like, it got that far.
I think she waited, but she waited a little bit too.
Yeah, she did.
So I think it was about a week or so.
I'm still boggled that usually a balloon goes up and it pops, doesn't it, at a certain point?
Well, we do helium balloons and like the ones that stay.
Oh,
the like metallic
ones that stay
we got them
for a
from
while.
Dollar Tree. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They sadly don't do that anymore, but.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was crazy. Like a God moment for us. Like that was cool for the girls.
And for them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they tell the story all the time.
Right.
So you impacted another family through your story.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Just like you're impacting many, many families and couples and others who are going through this exact same thing. So just thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. We really love you guys.
Let's be able to do it.
You bet.